I see a lot of people that say relics suck. They hate relics. All right, it's time to tackle one of the subjects that's one of the biggest discussions. I see a lot of people that say relics suck. They hate relics. They absolutely despise the concept of a pre-broken in instrument. And I get it. I get why, the hate. And they think, man, I got to pay, all this extra money for something that's got dings and scratches in it and all that. And, it's all good and well. And that opinion is certainly valid. But what happens when a Relic instrument is the best sounding guitar you have? Now, what I have here is a Relic Fender custom shop guitar. I'm just guessing. I think this is a 2017. I bought this from Sweetwater. I had previously a Fiesta Red Strat before with a matching headstock that I had bought on eBay and got a crazy good deal on. And like a lot of guitars, they kind of come and go, and I had gotten such a good deal on that guitar that when it came time that I needed a few bucks, as musicians are known to do, it ended up on the chopping block, thinking, well, my luck will turn around and I'll get another one. And, that guitar was gone, and it was, at the time, the best sounding Strat I'd ever owned. And so as, things got better and more gigs came in, and, I had the means to buy it, I went to my Sweetwater link, just like I have in the description here, and I purchased this Fiesta Red Custom Shop 60s Strat. Now it's got the clay dots, it's got a dark rosewood neck, it's got that nice worn in, thing going on the back. It's got all kinds of little dings, and it's got wear there and wear on the back and all that. But as you can hear in the demo or the little jam at the top of the video, it's an excellent sounding Strat, and it plays great too because it's got a 9.5 radius neck. It's got very large fret, I'd say medium jumbo, and it plays like $1,000,000. It sounds like $1,000,000, and it does everything that a Strat should do. And I'm gonna argue pro Relic now. Okay, so if anybody out there has played baseball, back in the day, you'd get a brand new baseball glove and it would be super stiff, and you'd have to work it and get it to where it felt comfortable. The same thing would go for, the old school Levi's used to get. That would be that dark blue, and they would be just super stiff. And, those pants just, when you first put them on, it would be terrible to put them on. And they weren't broken in at all. And you do all kinds of things to, you'd throw some bleach in the wash, or you'd wash them 100 times, or you'd dry them 100 times, or you'd go and drag them through the gravel, or whatever you would have to do to try to break them in. And, with Relic guitars, they are pre-broken in. A lot of times the neck is sort of rounded off here between the frets. And with this finish gone on the back of the neck, it's just super, super smooth. And I don't worry about this getting dinged on a gig or anything, because it's already got dings on it. It's already got wear. And, I've added some of these strum marks from playing all those R&B gigs, and just kind of chopping away at the finish here. But, this guitar is largely how it came from the factory. And, it's the best Strat I own. So, what do you say about that? I mean, there's people out there that say, oh, Relic guitars suck. And, I can even think back to in the 80s, in the late 80s, about 88, when I was going to GIT. I remember I used to sand down the back of the necks to make them smooth. That was something I discovered that improved, because I was always tinkering with guitars, like we all were, trying to get an edge. And then I had a Zion Strat, and I kind of sanded down this part of the neck just to try to make it a little bit easier and a little bit smoother right there for the upper frets. We didn't have, back then, we didn't have contoured heels. We were just, everybody was looking for an edge and anything you could do to, get an edge on the player that you're competing with. And I remember going in to GIT. I was still going to school there, and I remember a guy seeing that worn there. He goes, "Oh man, I wish my guitar looked like that." I didn't want to tell him that I just literally sanded down some of the finish. But that was early days of relicking. In the early days, we would sand our own necks down. I'd get a very fine grit sandpaper, and I'd sand the finish off the back of the neck, and even to some degree, the way we played back then, the guitars would get beat up, and they would get beat up, and you'd play the heck out of them. I mean, go and try and find any Ibanez RG from those times, and those guitars have been rode hard and put up wet. And so, it's very hard to find a pristine example, because that type of guitar, that type of player would be sitting there playing and tapping and doing all this stuff. And, I had, with my old Zion, the Floyd Rose, the saddles will wear out. So I would pull saddles. It had a black Floyd Rose, and then I would pull saddles off of, stainless steel Floyd Roses and put them on there. So it was all a mismatch of parts and relic and beat up, and then one day I got aggravated and put a little spray paint on the headstock, and so relic guitars have been around longer. I mean, look at Eddie Van Halen's guitars. Of course, they were hand painted and spray painted, and he would always modify and do things to stick that quarter that he stuck in, there and stuff. But, the reality is relic guitars are a thing. They're not going anywhere. You've got Murphy Lab on the Gibson side. You've got Fender custom shop relics, heavy aged, all of that stuff. And, the bottom line for me is, does it play good? And does it sound good? And that's really all that matters. The relic thing, I could care less if my Strat looks brand new. And I do like new guitars. I like new guitars because, I don't want to start with something broken. So I don't really go for the vintage guitars. They generally, at this point, you're looking at a 60 Strat is 50 some years old. And I don't want something that I'm going to have to maintain and do. So I would personally rather have a Fender custom shop Strat than maybe a $20,000 60 Strat that's going to need some work. Now, you can find some Case Queens out there that aren't all beat up. But, there's something to be said for an instrument that looks old. You take this guitar into a session and people look, "Oh man, look at that old guitar." And I just go, "Yeah, man." I don't even say anything because, in Nashville, a lot of the top session guys, they've got the vintage guitars, they've got the vintage amps, and that's part of the reason why they get those calls. And I get it. It's a mojo thing, right? But we all can't afford to spend $20,000 on a guitar, and frankly, I don't know how those guys do it, even because there's not as many sessions and things, as there were in the past. But, relic guitars, to me, it's not an issue. It's not something that I'm worried about. And I don't have any hatred towards them, because if somebody's trying to make something that's got the vibe and feel of a vintage instrument, hey, I'm all for it. The only time I have a problem with it is when the prices get crazy. I don't think relic instruments should be 5 to 10 grand. I don't think that is accurate. And, Fender has shown with the Road Worn series that, you know, they don't have to be that expensive. And the first road-worn Strats and Tellys that they came out with, man, those were excellent guitars. If you can find one of those old road-worn Tellys, one of the best Tellys I ever owned was a Fender road-worn Telly. It had that hideous yellow, you know, faded white, whatever it was, finish. And it was one of the best Tellys I had. But again, that was a guitar that, you know, I had for a while and then passed it on to the next person. But, you know, there's something to be said for a baseball glove that's worn in, a worn in pair of jeans that fit, and a worn, broken in guitar that feels good in your hands. But the bottom line is, if you don't like Relics, don't buy one. You know, I just think they're maybe a little bit overpriced, but you know what? On the used market, you can find some deals. So that's my opinion on Relic guitars. Let me know what you think in the comments. I know it's a hot topic and there's certainly a lot of different opinions. So let me know in the comments. And if you want to help this channel out greatly, hit the Amazon link or the Sweetwater link in my description, and anything you purchase will help me create more videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.